We're making steady progress, and ultimately the election is going to be a choice between a vision that says we're all in this together and we're making investments in the future on things like student loans or refinancing, and a vision that says everybody's looking out for themselves.
Well, that was President Obama yesterday. So is that the choice for Americans? Let's ask presidential candidate Mitt Romney, who's our guest this morning. Good morning to you, Governor.
Good morning, Gretchen.
What did you make of the press tour yesterday with local stations from across the country that the president's folks wanted him to do, undoubtedly in response to his private sector gaffe on Friday?
Well, he's had a number of very revealing comments that show just how far out of touch he is with what's happening in the country. Yesterday, he said, among other things, that he didn't realize that Obamacare is having any impact on small business. I'd acquaint him with a survey that was done by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce that asked small businesses how Obamacare is affecting them. 75%, three-quarters of them, said it was less likely for them to hire people because of Obamacare. And then, of course, his comment that the private sector is doing fine at a time when instead you've seen growth of our economy at below 2% for the first quarter, and you have about 15% of Americans out of work or stopped looking for work or underemployed. The president is really out of touch with what's happening across America.
He says that you're out of touch. He says that you want to cut firefighters and teachers, that you don't understand what's going on in these communities. What do you say to that, Governor?
Well, that's a very strange accusation. Of course, teachers and firemen and policemen are hired at the local level and also by states. The federal government doesn't pay for teachers, firefighters, or policemen. So obviously that's completely absurd. He's got a new idea, though, and that is to have another stimulus and to have the federal government send money to try and bail out cities and states. It didn't work the first time. It certainly wouldn't work the second time.
Governor, I wanted to ask you about something. It was a jaw-dropping statistic that was flashed across the country yesterday. The Federal Reserve has figured out that over the last 3 years, the net worth of the average American family has fallen 40% over 3 years, wiped out 2 decades worth of America's wealth, mainly because house values have dropped. When you saw that number, that American debt, or rather American wealth, down 40% in 3 years, what did you think?
Well, I knew that's why the American people are having such a hard time. That's why the idea of selecting as a campaign slogan forward is so absurd. The American people are facing really tough circumstances. They're looking at how they're going to pay for retirement. I was with a couple in Wisconsin. They had a couple of duplexes they were relying upon to sell for their retirement. The values have collapsed. They wonder what they're going to do. With a barber who couldn't retire because even though he's in his 70s because of the loss of the net worth that he had. Look, people are having hard times in this country, and the president needs to go out and talk to people, not just do fundraisers. Go out and talk to people in the country and find out what's happening.
It's interesting because it appears that they're going to continue the attacks on you and your Bain Capital experience, even though many high-profile Democrats came out and said that they didn't agree with those tactics. It seems like the super PACs, the pro-Obama super PACs, are going to continue along this path. Is that beneficial for you, or is it a negative?
Well, I think people understand that we have a free enterprise system in America, and that the right course for America is to encourage free enterprise, small business, big business. We want people to hire. And the president has the most anti-business, anti-investment, anti-jobs administration I think I've ever seen. And the people of this country want to see people who have private sector experience, who know what it takes to get the private sector hiring again. And Obamacare is one of the worst offenders in making it difficult for small businesses to go back to the business of hiring people and expanding. So I think people recognize the president may be well-meaning, but he's just out of touch with what's happening across the country and doesn't understand how free enterprise and private small businesses are able to grow.
Well, you got a big event today, and plus you're going to be on that bus tour through all the battleground states, so it's going to be a busy week for you. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Brian.